Good morning. It's Wednesday, January 21st. International Sweatpants Day. The cat came running right over as soon as I said sweatpants. This is something we've got to get back to. We've lost our way since the pandemic. We thought we were all better and healthy. No, we've lost our way. We're not wearing enough sweatpants. We got to get back to it. And now, the news. Starting with Venezuela, just to keep you on your toes. Hey, guess what? We're doing a lot of bad stuff everywhere. You never know where we're going to start in this show. Starting with Venezuela, but in the Caribbean Sea, where the United States has seized its 7th oil tanker with links to the country. As a reminder, because I know there is a lot to pay attention to, here is where things stand with Venezuela. Currently, Delcy Rodríguez has named herself the new leader of the country after Maduro was taken out of the country. Just as Maduro was never elected and in fact lost by a large margin, the last election, Rodríguez did in fact call herself the vice president, but that is not accurate. Can't be a legitimate vice president when the president is not legitimate. She is trying to paint herself as a moderate, but make no mistake, she is just as bad as Maduro. On the other side of things is Maria Corina Machado, who won the primary in 2023, but was banned from running for office in 2024 because that is how Maduro did things in Venezuela. Instead, Edmundo Gonzalez ran in her place and won by a landslide. But Maduro refused to concede that election and never left office. As I said, Maduro is not the president, was not the president of Venezuela. Now that he has been removed, Machado has stated that she intends to return to Venezuela and run for president. The issue, however, is that Trump, who put his own picture on Wikipedia as the acting president of Venezuela, so I'm glad we're all taking this very seriously, has a problem with Machado. The problem? She won the Nobel Peace Prize, and he, a white supremacist insurrectionist who has been found liable for sexual assault and who was best friends with one of the most prolific child sex traffickers in history, somehow didn't. It evades imagination as to how that one slipped through the cracks. Trump has literally said that if Machado had said that she could not accept her Nobel Peace Prize and that it should instead go to Trump, she would be president of Venezuela right now. That is, he's on record being like, if she had just done that, she'd be good. Neat guy. Machado, however, unlike Trump, actually loves her country and wants to do well by it. She loves her country so much that she actually went to Trump last week and gave him her Nobel Peace Prize. Technically, it can't be transferred, but not in his dumb mind. He thinks he's got it now. He literally posted about it on social media saying, quote, "Maria presented me with her Nobel Peace Prize for the work I have done. Such a wonderful gesture of mutual respect. Thank you, Maria," end quote. Moron. Also, snake. Because while they were meeting, Trump's CIA director was meeting with Delcy Rodríguez. So it remains TBD on whether a formal conversation was had during their conversation about what potential elections in Venezuela could be. But what else do we think they were talking about? Machado is doing everything she can to get free and fair elections in Venezuela. Meanwhile, Trump is just taking Nobel Peace Prizes, but going around and having clandestine conversations about, oil and probably not free or fair elections. So we will see. As for that Nobel Peace Prize, Caroline Leavitt says, quote, "It does not solve the problem. And he's still worthy of actually being the recipient of the award." It does, I wouldn't say that that's the problem that I foresee, though I will agree that a problem still persists. There is still a problem, and it has not been solved. But I don't think Caroline and I agree on what the problem actually is. Anyway, these people are insufferable. And over to Iran, where protests have slowed, but the crackdown continues. It all started when their currency plunged in late December, and university students started to protest. Those protests grew into more of a general protest against the government, with protesters seen chanting things like, quote, "Death to the dictator," and, quote, "Iranians, raise your voice, shout out for your rights." Iran, famously cool with stuff like that, began to arrest protesters en masse, as well as use violence to suppress the protests. What's happening is genuinely hard to know because the government is blocking information from coming out, literally. They cut the internet as well as cell phone lines, although they are now perhaps slowly allowing the internet to come back online, like very, very slowly, and it is still at the hands of the government. But during all of this, the United States-based human rights activist news agency says that they believe at least 3,900 protesters and about 180 security forces have been killed. This is an absolutely devastating number on its own. However, the agency is still working to verify the more than 9,000 other reported deaths. Witnesses report seeing security forces shooting and killing unarmed demonstrators at close range, while others say that snipers are shooting into crowds indiscriminately from rooftops. There have been no large-scale protests since Sunday. During all of this, ever the helper, Trump has repeatedly threatened to intervene militarily to protect protesters. You know how Trump is always trying to help protesters? More protests! That's his motto. Iran's supreme leader has accused the United States as well as Israel of instigating the protests, a trifecta of characters we don't want to be necessarily involved with as far as people being mad at each other. Trump has recently backed off of his threats, however, seeing signs that the killing has stopped. That's his words, at least. He is saying that now that he's seeing signs that the killing has stopped, he is going to back off. But it's an option on the table. As the internet comes back online, we will see where things go from here. It is an uncomfortable thing to be keeping an eye on. Speaking of just general everything so far in this episode has been uncomfortable, and we will keep on that theme. In Minnesota, as protests continue there, the Department of Justice has announced that it is opening investigations into 6 state and local officials, with subpoenas being sent to the offices of Governor Tim Walz, Attorney General Keith Ellison, Minneapolis' Mayor Jacob Frey, as well as the Mayor of St. Paul and officials in Ramsey and Hennepin counties. In response to the subpoena, Mayor Frey said, quote, "We shouldn't have to live in a country where people fear that federal law enforcement will be used to play politics or crack down on local voices they disagree with," end quote. To which Trump said, that's literally the only kind of country I want to live in. Not sure what you mean. And finally, what of Greenland? We're having so much fun so far in this episode. Trump makes no friends everywhere he goes. I wonder what kind of country we'd be if he had made just like a friend in elementary school. And he is certainly not to make any friends in Davos today. So let's talk about what's going on with Greenland and his upcoming trip to Davos. Well, his current trip to Davos, I guess, by this point. Trump is scheduled to make a speech today at the World Economic Forum, and it is gonna be a speech for sure. Amongst the attendees are a whole bunch of European leaders who are not thrilled or even like 2%, 0.002% happy with Trump's threat to take Greenland by hook or by trade. Here are a couple things that were said ahead of Trump's big speech today. We've got France's President Emmanuel Macron, who said, quote, "It's a shift toward a world without rules, where international law is trampled underfoot and where the only law that seems to matter is that of the strongest and imperial ambitions are resurfacing," end quote. Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney said, quote, "Great powers can afford for now to go it alone. They have the market size, the military capacity, and the leverage to dictate terms. Middle powers do not," adding, quote, "We stand firmly with Greenland and Denmark and fully support their unique right to determine Greenland's future," end quote. Belgium's Prime Minister Bart de Wever said, quote, "We either stand together or we stand divided. And if we stand divided, there is the end of an era of 80 years of Atlanticism really drawing to a close." European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen said this about the trade deals between the United States and the EU, quote, "If this change is permanent, then Europe must change permanently too. It is time to seize this opportunity and build a new independent Europe. We consider the people of the United States not just our allies, but our friends. And plunging us into a downward spiral would only aid the very adversaries we are both so committed to keeping out of the strategic landscape, end quote. And that is the very unfriendly atmosphere that Trump will be stepping into today. But fear not, nobody worry, his Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent teed him up real good and smoothed things over, saying, quote, "I think our relations have never been closer. Calm down the hysteria, take a deep breath," end quote. Ladies, let me tell you something. I learned this from my mother, but I know I'm not the only woman that when I am told to take a deep breath, I will flames on the side of my face. Nope, I won't. One of us will be taking deep breaths, and one of us won't have breaths. You know what I mean? Oh boy, I'm so glad he didn't say that to me. Anyway, good luck, bad luck, no luck at all to Trump and his speech. We'll see what it brings. I fear it won't be a good speech, but it will be memorable, you know? And that's it. That's the news. It's been an episode for sure. Not a fun one. Well, fun for me to be here with you. Not fun stories. What can we do? I'm proud of pajamas. Pajama pants. Jimmy Jams. I love Jimmy Jams. But more that they're so comfortable, guys. Here's what I like. I didn't write any of this down. I like something called the mullet of outfits. It's business on the top, Jimmy Jams on the bottom. But now I go into an office, so I don't really do that anymore. But man, I miss it. But more than pajamas, more than sweatpants. I forgot it was sweatpants. Damn, I'm telling you, I didn't write any of this down. More than sweatpants, because you too bring me comfort and are warm. And also, sometimes have fun patterns. And for those reasons alone, I'm proud of you.